Hey, what's up, everybody? This is JK here. Just want to talk about the Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, kind of just give you my experience and some of the resources, or just tell you the resources I use to actually prepare for it. Now, I know some people may decide to skip the Cloud Practitioner. I wanted to take it just because I wanted a more foundational understanding of a lot of the other AWS services. I've been using S3 since probably about 2007, 2008, somewhere around there in my own business, as well as, with S3, learning how to use IAM and stuff like that. But I wanted a good foundational understanding of a lot of the other services that AWS has to offer, even though I'm interested in the security side of AWS. So that's why I decided to tackle this one. For me personally, probably about I probably prepared for this exam maybe a good solid month, but I had been consuming AWS information for probably 2 to 3 months. So, but then I was like, okay, let's do this certification. Then I kind of, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month of solid, just really focused on this exam. Now, a lot of the content that I used was available for free, so I definitely want to highlight that. I did pay for a few different things, and I'll kind of explain why I use that. But overall, I think it's a pretty good cert, man. It's a really good introduction into all the stuff that AWS has to offer. Obviously, it doesn't go in depth on everything, but it gives you a good foundational understanding of their services and why you may choose to use them and different things like that. So for me, it was specifically something I wanted to learn. That's the type of stuff that I go after when it comes to certification. So let me kind of show you, just kind of run through some of the stuff that I use to prepare for it. So let's check that out. All right, so a lot of the content that I used to prepare for this was free, and you can definitely prepare for this exam using a lot of the free content put out by AWS directly. The first place to start, I would say, would be the Ramp Up Guides. If you go to their Ramp Up Guides page, you can look through all these different guides by type or by service and whatever you want to do. What I end up doing was downloading the Cloud Foundations, the Architect, and there's a security one also that I downloaded. So I downloaded those. Just let me give you a quick look of how those look. So this is kind of what they look like. It's a really good guideline. And the reason I show this first is because this takes you to their Skill Builder platform or their training platform. They kind of switched between those two recently in the last few months, but all this stuff links to the stuff that is on their page, either videos, white papers, web pages, stuff like that. So I went through all this stuff, even the things that say like one day classroom. You can watch those. They have those broken out into recorded sessions. So pretty much everything on here is free. I don't remember anything on here that was paid. But yeah, all this stuff on here, you can just go through and watch. Even the self-paced labs, I went through those. You can do those through Quick Labs. These ones that say self-paced, these ones at the bottom, those actually require you to have your own account. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, I went through all that, and I'll just kind of show you what that looks like. So here's some of the courses on Skill Builder when they transitioned over, and then here's a bunch of the stuff that I did on the old version. So you can see, about 3.5 months I've been kind of just consuming basic content. Also, some of this stuff was kind of required to go through for my new position. They're kind of pushing AWS as well as Azure. So that's what kind of moved me to kind of focus on this one a little bit. But as you can see, for me, I wanted to get a good understanding of everything that was in there. But a lot of it for me was security based. Like I was really interested in the security based stuff, the VPCs and NACLs, IAM compliance. A lot of that stuff for me is where I wanted to focus. But I also wanted to get a good broad understanding of everything else. So I went through all that. And you can see over here on Quick Labs, they just have a bunch of stuff there. What I will say is most of the stuff in the Ramp Up Guide, you won't have to pay for as far as labs concerned. Most of them are free. Some of them require like 1 credit, which is like $1 or something like that. I ended up getting the monthly subscription just so I can do more labs and more training and stuff like that. You don't have to do that, but I did that. So I did pay for that, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Another thing that I paid for was the Tutorial Dojo practice exams. I also got the study guide, but mainly I was focused on the practice exams. And I like to use practice exams because that's just how I like to learn. I like to test myself to see what I know and then where I need to study. So that's kind of how I use practice exams. Where am I at? Where do I need to study? And then it just helps me to kind of solidify the things that I'm learning. So that's kind of how I use those. Also did some well-architected labs. You can go through all the well-architected pillars and just do stuff based on your level, like 100, 200, 300 level labs. So definitely suggest doing those as well. And then here's some of the tutorials you can do on AWS. Those again require you to have your own AWS account, which I already had, for my business, but I also set up one just to test, just to kind of go through and test this stuff out. So I suggest doing that because a lot of what I learned about AWS, outside of their ramp up guide, a lot of the stuff is in the documentation or just looking through the actual services. So I spent a lot of time in the white papers, on the service pages within the AWS console, or actually in the services, just looking at what the different options are. I definitely highly suggest doing that. Again, for me, it's about learning what this stuff is and not so much about the exam, even though I like passing the exams. I want to learn as much as I can about what it is that I'm looking at. So I highly suggest doing that, just going in, playing around, looking at the documentation, looking at different pages that explain what the services are and things like that. Like I said, here's some of the white papers that you can go through and find, depending on what you're looking for. Other than that, I also paid for, or I had a subscription to Cloud Academy. So I went through some of their stuff. I mainly used them for, I guess, kind of review over some of the stuff that I had already watched on the AWS training, but mainly I wanted to go through their different knowledge checks, which was really cool. And then also you can see some of their, I went through their labs. So I like going through their labs because they don't require you to have your own account. You could just go through and use their account basically. So it's really cool. So I did that. And then I also, I went through some of the IT Pro TV. I usually do this for every exam just because I like the way they present stuff. It's not so whiteboard, PowerPoint based. It's more just conversational. So I just kind of like watching it almost as, entertainment or just, letting the time pass by. But it allows me to soak up some of the stuff that I've already done and some of the stuff I've already went through. And sometimes I find that they have a different approach of looking at things or explaining things. So I just like to use multiple ways of looking at stuff. Also, in addition to these, I also watched a few on LinkedIn Learning. Those were more about the history of AWS, why Amazon built AWS and kind of that foundational aspect. So that was pretty cool. And then I watched maybe one or two on Pluralsight from the security best practices aspect. So that's pretty much all I used to study for this exam. I would say you don't have to pay for anything if you want to study for this exam. You can definitely use all the free content. Like I said, all this stuff on Amazon that Amazon puts out, from the Ramp Up Guides to, all their free hands-on labs and, all that stuff. I was timed out. But anyway, all their free hands-on labs, all their free training, their white papers, their documentation, basically everything that you need to get through or learn the content that you're trying to learn can be found directly from Amazon, in my opinion. I just like to get more resources. I like to get different perspectives, and I like to learn as much as I can from different angles. But if you don't want to spend any money, you definitely don't have to, outside of spending money for the exam. And I feel like you could pass it if you just go through all this stuff. Also, I did use, Amazon now has their practice exams or their practice questions are free through Skill Builder. So you actually can take free practice questions directly from AWS, which I did those as well. So those used to be paid, but now they're free. I think there's only like 20 questions, but it's still, it gives you a good idea of what to expect. So overall, definitely, man, enjoyed this certification. If you're interested in it, if you're interested in cloud, if you're interested in AWS, I definitely suggest doing it. Even if you've been using specific tools in AWS for a long time, but you want a broad understanding of more than just what you're used to using, I suggest doing it. That's the reason why I wanted to do it. Like I said, I was super familiar with S3 and IAM, but not so much with the other stuff. I knew they were there, but I just didn't have, a lot of experience deploying or needing to deploy, databases, or, I'm saying, different things like that, or even EC2 instances and stuff like that. So definitely a good way to get a broad understanding of some of that stuff and just get your hands-on practice. So let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this helps you out. If you're looking forward to taking this exam, I'd like to hear about it. If you got questions about some of the stuff that I used to prepare, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Peace.